Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics as Non-Classics. This is episode number 256 and Doubleshot number 188. Shoot, excuse me for a minute. Oh, that's better. Sorry about that. Forgot to make my bed. Now it looks better. Now, are they? Oh yes, double shots. Two Superman traits for you. First up, Superman, Volume 3, Fury at World's End, written by Scott Lobdell and the artwork by Kenneth Rocafort. Yeah. And he does the cover art with Sunny Go. I think that's how you pronounce the person's name. Now, there's about 3 different stories in this particular trade. First is this book covers issues 0 and 13 to 17. Now, issue 0 is just a story featuring Jor-El, 12 years on Krypton, 12 years before its act of destruction. It's a pretty decent story for what it is. 13 is simply kind of a prelude to what I'm going to talk about in a minute here. It's just basically Superman just going through a checkup with this doctor who does come back for Superman Doomed, though the doctor has not been seen since Superman Doomed. Let's see here. Let's get a picture of her. Here we go. This redhead right here. Those of you who read Superman Doomed? Yeah, she's there too. I think this is supposed to be her, I don't know, first, second appearance? I don't know. But the artwork itself is actually really good, for the most part. It's very shiny-esque. It's like the artist is very obsessed with getting every single detail in when it comes to these characters. And this artist will stay on until around issue like 18 or 19. Yeah. I should also say that this book, up until Scott Lobdell took over, had trouble keeping a creative team on board. This is actually one of 2 titles that, recently ended, that particular volume, that had that problem. The other, of course, was Green Arrow. Yep, it couldn't keep a creative team on board, because these editorial had to stick their noses where they don't belong. But Lobdell writes a good story here. Now for the Hell on Earth story. The Hell on Earth story is actually a pretty decent crossover. In my honest opinion, I think this particular crossover had people buying. I think that at this point in time for this crossover, for the Hell on Earth crossover, that you had, this is Hell right here on the back cover, the one who's holding, I think that's it's Superman. Now the crossover stuff for the issues in here only covers issues 14 to 17. It's a pretty decent crossover. I got a lot of character development, a little bit of character development for Superman. It's actually a pretty good crossover. It's actually the first crossover for Superman with New 52. It's actually the first of 4 crossovers for the Superman titles. Actually 5. Because you got this, Psi War, Doomed, you got the Truth stuff, Savage Dawn, and of course Last Days of Superman. Those are the crossovers. This was like the first one they ever did. But unlike some of the crossovers they had for some of the 52 titles, this one actually waited well over a year before it started to do any crossovers. Which, you gotta praise the Superman title for doing that. And this book is actually pretty good. It's an okay book. And I give the book a 8.5 out of 10. Next up is a book that I'm going to play a game with. Well, first, this one is Superman, Volume 4, Psi War, collecting Superman, and number 2. And this is, of course, Superman Volume 3. 1824, and Action Comics 24. Now, there is at least, 3 different stories here. 3 or 4 different stories in here. First is the Superman Annual, which is its own standalone story. And that annual actually is sort of it plants some seeds for the Superman Doom storyline that happens exactly it starts like 7 issues after this particular storyline is over. Basically, it's 1 year in advance, which is good. Now there are 4 different. There's like 4 villains and 1 villain group in here. Now the game I'm gonna play is Name That Gallery, because only like 1 of these villains are in fact a Superman villain. The rest are other people's villains. First, you have Brainiac, Queen Bee, Hector Hammond, and Psycho Pirate. Yeah, that's Queen Bee on the cover, Hector Hammond. As for Psycho Pirate, let's see here. What's a good picture of that jerk? Well, he is pretty much written the same way he normally is. He's insane. Which I do praise the writer for doing that. This is Psycho Pirate. Yep, this guy here is Psycho Pirate. Like, some people though, like, know Psycho Pirate, like, that's not Psycho Pirate. Where's the real Psycho Pirate? Oh, this is just the writer's interpretation. Well, this particular story had the, well, first New 52 appearance, not only Brainiac, Hector Hammond, Queen Bee, Hive, and Psycho Pirates. Now, whose gallery did they belong to? Brainiac, Superman. Queen Bee, JLA/Teen Titans. Hector Hammond, Hal Jordan, and of course, he's a Green Lantern villain. Hive, Teen Titans. Psycho Pirate, JSA. So, out of all these villains, only Brainiac is a regular Superman villain. Now, I get the fact Queen Bee is here, because she has fought Superman in the past. Hector Hammond, on the other hand, has never fought Superman before. So I'm thinking, though, why in the world is it that that Scott Lobdell would be a good idea to have Hector Hammond, a Green Lantern villain? Oh, and by the way, in this continuity, Hector Hammond has never fought Hal Jordan. Why? Because Hal Jordan spends most of his time in space. Maybe they could have met in the Green Lantern's storyline, but no, can't do that. Oh, and the writers in here, well, Scott Lobdell and Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's write the Psi War crossover, which happens from Superman 23 to 24 and Action Comics 24. Now, there are many different artists. You have Kenneth Rockford, who was the artist in the previous trade. Aaron Keeter, Eddie Burrows, Jesus Moreau, Ever Ferrer, legendary Dan Jurgens, Norm Rupman, Tyler Kirkham, Robinson Recca, Jamie Medaza, Daniel Hoare, and Gerardo Borges. Now, Jurgens only does just the, he only does annual #1. Here's a sample of the guy's artwork. Yeah, the guy is still a good artist and a writer. He's one of those handful of guys who can do both writing and artwork perfectly fine, and it comes out gorgeous. The only guys besides him who actually can do both of those things is, besides Jurgens, you also have Tom McFarlane, Eric Larson, let me think, who else? The late Jack Kirby did it. Steve Ditko did it as well. The most recent one was Patrick Gleason. He actually did a pretty good job. Yeah. Here's some other artists. Yeah. Now, the other stories in here, you have a 2-parter. Well, you have a standalone issue dealing with the aftermath of what happened with Hell on Earth. Basically, Superman talking to Congress. Doesn't that sound familiar? Yeah, it also happened in Batman v Superman. He only did it for like 2 scenes. Now, Superman is very uncooperative because he doesn't want anybody in the Fortress of Solitude. At least the world knows about the Fortress of Solitude, knows where it is. They just... And, of course, that congressman does come back later on in the trade. Basically, apparently something happens to him anyways. Then there's a 2-parter where it's just Superman versus Orion. And Wonder Woman shows up completely for some reason. Yeah. Wonder Woman. She just guest stars for a couple issues. And then she doesn't appear in the book until the Doom crossover. But it's a pretty good two-parter. There's the Psi War stuff, and then there's stuff with Hector Hammond. It's a bit confusing trade. Now I'm thinking though, Lobdell, you know there are other Superman villains aside from Brainiac and Lex Luthor. Why is it at times, basically, when it comes to the Superman writers, it seems like the only villains I can think of putting in Superman books is Lex Luthor and Brainiac? He does have other villains, people like Metallo, who's only shown up at this point in time just in the pages of Action Comics. Does Lobdell use him? Oh, heck no, he doesn't use him. Let's see, who else? Oh yeah, there's Toyman. But only the Japanese Toyman showing up in the comic, because Winslow Shot has not made it show up at all. It's only the Japanese Toyman show up in possibly one of the worst stories ever depicted in New 52. I wouldn't say the worst. I'd say one of the worst, because that story was just so bad. It was like an arc of Batman suit. The other thing good about the book was the artwork. Yeah, the artwork in here is really good. I really enjoyed the artwork. But the stories are like hit or miss in here. But it's still a pretty decent trade. It's a long trade, collecting about, let's see, 9 issues. Yeah, this book collects 9 issues. It's not bad. I mean, putting the Action Comics issue in here makes sense because it crossover with it. I mean, it's a mini crossover. It's not like a big, humongous crossover like would happen later on. Yeah, pretty much after Psi War, it's Krypton Returns. I'm not joking. That's the very next crossover that happens right after this. And the crossover is over the course of a month. It starts with Action Comics number 2 and wraps up with Superman issue 25. Yep. Yeah, they were doing the same thing. They thought because Lights Out was being promoted so well, they said do the same thing with the Superman crossover. Just have it be 1 month instead of 4 months, like Hell on Earth was. And yet Doom later on was 4 months. Truth was 4 months. Savage Dawn was 2 months. Last Day Superman was 2 months. Okay. Whatever happened to have a crossover take place per month? Maybe they want to get more time. I don't know. But this is still pretty good. I scratched my head at the figure though, why in the world is Hector Hammond appearing in the pages of Superman? He's never fought Superman before. So why the heck is he here? I mean, in case of Psycho Pirate, I think, as far as I think he has fought Superman once, but that was years ago. I know Queen Bee has fought Superman before prior to this. Yeah, it was a one-off issue of Superman where she formed her own anti-Justice League, where they were supposed to take down the Justice League in the issue of Superman instead of doing an issue of Justice League. And she lost, and the anti-Justice League disbanded right after that. But that was a different Queen Bee. As for which Queen Bee this is, the book does not say at all what her real name is, because there have been several people who have assumed the title of Queen Bee over the years. But great artwork, great depiction of Superman here on the cover, despite the fact the collar is completely unnecessary. But I'm going to give this also an 8.5 out of 10. It's just okay. But was it really necessary to have Superman fight Hector Hammond? Yeah, Orion. Orion I get because he has appeared in the page Superman before, but Hector Hammond, Queen Bee, and Hive. Hive is Teen Titan villains. Queen Bee, Teen Titan JLA, Psycho Pirate, JSA, and of course the only regular Superman villain actually in this trade is in fact Brainiac. Now, if Scott Lobdell at this point would have looked at who is in the Superman Rogues Gallery, he wouldn't have created people like Ghost Soldier or whatever crap he came up with in the later stuff. But yeah, it's particularly very odd. But that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for next episode, which should be episode 257, and hopefully Doubleshot number 189. Until then, see you there. Bye.